Hello everyone! Welcome to Creative Edge Tutorials, where I show the start to finish process of one of my 3 designs. In this month's article, I chose to make 3 examples of flower art, or as I prefer to call it, FLOWERxART, a cross-pollination of art and flowers, a hybrid of art structure with flowers to bring this art to life. Today, I'd like to show you the creating of my Rise design, the second of the 3 examples, which can be seen on my website at hitomigilliam.com/creativeedge. So let's start with the ingredients that you need for this design. In the supplies, I'm going to do it in order of use. So first, Accent Decor Lotus Pot Container. That's what I'm calling it. Actually, they have it, they sell it as vessel bud vase. Also, you'll need 3 MIDOLLINO extenders, 60 plus color tapestry sticks in varying lengths in wide range of colors, BINDWIRE from Smithers-Oasis in green. So let me start by showing you how to create the art structure first. So you're gonna take a lotus vase. I've got it on the turntable so it's easy to move, and so that because we're designing all the way around. So the lotus vase is first laced with MIDOLLINO extenders, which are these, and bound securely to add structural lift to the vessel. So we're gonna start out with 3 of them, and we're going to weave them, lace them through the holes of this lotus vase. So I'm going to just sort of slip this through. And as it comes through, what you want to do, and then we need to prepare actually the BINDWIRE in advance. So with that, we're going to use substantial amounts, so we should get ready to have quite a stack of these. These shorts should be adequate size for this purpose. So let's have that to the side. So now I'm going to start to bind these together, bring this nice and tight so that it's lifted inside of that container so that it's not going to be sitting in water once we fill it with water. We're going to move it around. Let's bring this in through here. The whole idea is to lift off of the surface of this lotus pod shape so that we can build the color tapestry sticks up above the vase. So that's the first set. Take another one. So it's just now a matter of attaching one to the other so that it stays nice and rigid. Because this is really the foundation onto which you will build the art structure. Again, nice and tight. More ties, the better. So I threaded that through. That was a little bit tricky, but I'm going to bring it back over here so that it gives it another area of lift. continue to do so. Basically what I'm trying to do is create a lift so that I'm going to be putting the tapestry sticks in sort of a slant diagonal so that it creates almost like a cinder cone shape. So I am shaping this armature to be able to accommodate the final outcome of the way the tapestry sticks will be used. I think it's really kind of outstanding when you have a container that's very versatile. I've used this container in another recent video in a different way. And I think it's really nice when you have a container that has variable uses. So the last extender, I want to bring it sort of round things out. As you notice, this is slightly a different color. The color is not that important really at the moment. However, if you should see it through the structure at any point, it's nice that it is of color that will blend nicely with nature so that it has that connection with the flowers that ultimately will make this design come alive. Basically, each one of the tapestry sticks will be attached at 2 points. That's why you always want 2 layers of the MIDOLLINO extender so that it has a good solid attachment of sticks in 2 spots. So this is what I'm looking at as I'm going around to create this armature, because this is really the hardcore mechanics of how this art is going to be built. The good thing about MIDOLLINO extender is that it is pliable because it is wired on inside. So it has a little bit of give so that it's possible if something is not quite so that you can move it around a little bit to make a shift. I think that's one of the most wonderful attributes of this mechanic is that it moves with you as you need it. So I think this is looking about right. Maybe just one more, lift this up a little bit so that it peaks somewhat towards the center. It's not absolutely essential that it's perfectly so, but it helps just envisioning what I'm about to do, that it has all the elements that makes it successful. So this is what I've got, like that. At this point, what I want to do is fill it with water because it becomes more difficult as you get built up to be able to fill it with water. So this is the best time. There we go. So now what we want to also do, even though it's probably not going to be really visible, but I do want to clean up the mechanics a little bit. All of these ties, let's just clean it up so that it has good finish. It's always important whether you see it or not. So I'm just going to nip off those little extra spurs so that it's nice and clean. So now it's about creating the art. And like I said before, I want to create almost like a cinder cone effect. So I want to build up these beautiful tapestry sticks to build out into a wonderful cinder cone shape. So I'm going to start with, and what I've done is all these sticks, I've done it in a color sequence so that I have it planned side by side, and I'm looking at different variation of sizes and different variation of color, creating visual rhythm, creating size rhythm as well. And so that I can plan up until a certain point, and then I'll organize the next set. So first I'm going to go in and attach this first one. And remember I said that it's important to attach in 2 spots, because one spot, it makes it so that it floats. But with a second, it makes this binding nice and solid. So you can see how it works. So I'm going to go and continue. I'm going to go side by side, but I'm going to create a little bit of rhythm, some high, some low, but you're going to flare out towards the bottom so it becomes a cone shape and tighter at the top. And so needless to say, the fact that it tapers at the top really helps contribute to the shaping of this cone. So some of these short ones will go down lower because that makes it so that the tip, the narrowed end at the tip is much tighter together at the top, and then more fatter middle becomes the taper out. What you want to create is just a visual rhythm across the top and across the bottom. So think in terms of just being much more random in the way you place these across these armature, the point of attachment, because it just is more artistic. That there's this sort of certain sense of natural randomness about the way it builds. Just to give it a little bit more flair, you want to, at times, give it just a little bit of spacing between so that it starts to flare a little bit more. So this is where you just sort of eyeball it to see how it looks as a design. The relations of colors, that's really how I organized it, so that it goes from black to brown with sort of ornamentation or patterning or blending of color that is flattering to those base colors. And now I'm transitioning a little bit with a little bit of peachiness and orange to it. And so that becomes a little bit more of the feel for the next few. Some of these sticks are a little bit more decorative than others. Others are more sort of plainer hue. And you want that variation because that's like when you're painting, that you want to see the variation and sort of the crescendo of certain components, color components in it, and then some less so. I think that this is the exciting part of the creative process, is when you can start to see, and this is why I call them tapestry sticks, because as you develop the flow of these diagonals flaring outward, and it starts to create this cone, you can see the tapestry of fibers developing. So now I'm introducing, because we have the yellows as sort of accent pieces, but now yellow or the mustard is becoming the prevalent base color. I'm going into the oranges and reds. And, you know, it was so exciting. Some of the fibers that I had were like mixture of color, the fibers. And you can see that it becomes much more decorative. Very attractive. And it reminds me of some different costuming that you see with different cultures. The color blending that is very earthy, very natural, with a spike of brightness that adds extra ornamentation. But I put that next to a much more woolly, sort of a real blurred blend, so that it allows for these ornamented pieces to really pop between it. And you can see the different length, top and bottom, and it adds a wonderful sort of rhythm vertical rhythm. I think this is why I consider this part to be more the art, because really you're composing with the line, with color, with texture, keeping in mind the real effect that you're driving towards. Okay, so I finished going all the way around to create this sort of cinder cone kind of a look around that armature. And so the flowers will be placed in through the middle amongst these color tapestry. I'm gonna go and clip all these bind wire ends as spurs to clean it all up, and then we'll be ready to go with flowers. So we're gonna start first with Southern Smilax to lace this through in through this cone. So I have some of them sort of selectively pruned. Some of the damaged leaves were taken off. So we're gonna use this to sort of start to design randomly into this structure to create a little bit more interesting flow over this. So I'm just gonna lace this. The beauty of this is that we could actually thread some of this Smilax in through, in between some of these pieces of the tapestry sticks. So I'm just gonna allow that to go there. Maybe this one here. You can see how this goes. Another one. The whole purpose of the flowers is to really make this design come alive so that it's not just a static piece of art. That really, that's sort of the virtue of flowers themselves, is that there's an ability for it to bring living life through the design. I love this Southern Smilax because it has that sort of a wild, viney feel to it that looks like it's growing right onto this structure. I think that's really what I'm looking for, is to be able to make it look as if they've been growing there all along and lodging into the nooks and crannies of this art piece. Adds a lot of movement, visual movement. I'm going to use one more piece. Southern Smilax is so wonderful because They hold up so well out of water. The greenery even seemed to hold up super, super well. And I love all its little tendrils and tips that just bring so much life to this design. So you can see how this works. So now what I'm going to do is add in a feature that actually make this really wonderfully exotic. I'm going to take the Alocasia amazonica, or it's called African mask, and we're going to insert it right into sort of the heart of this tapestry structure. I just want to show you where I put it. Look at how that adds that touch of exotic. And it, again, African mask, so it has a very cultural reference to it. And it's a lot about the coloring and the feel of that primitive look. So that's kind of get that sort of started. I'm going to use the smoke bush, Cotinus contigria, because the design, the art is very rich into the browns and into the darker shades with that kind of ethnic patterning. I want to use this color that coordinates with that on the opposite side, directly opposite, to kind of add that feel on the contrasting side. You can see how that works. Look how beautiful that is. Oh, Cotinus is just so lovely. Gonna take another one. We're gonna bring it to the back, maybe right in here. Just gotta find that opening so that it adds that extra piece into the back. I'm gonna now go to the elderberry, the red elderberry. It's Sambucus racema, which is really native to our area. They're growing outside at the moment, and they're just coming into the beautiful red berries right at the moment. So I'm gonna tuck those in to create that beautiful flow. I'm also gonna use it in through to contrast beautifully against the textures and colors that are happening right now. Some of the deep sort of V's that is being created with the way the sticks go to the peak makes it possible to use these berries tucked, sort of flowing out of the container. I'm going to also use the eucalyptus. I've stripped the leaves off, but I love the fact that it brings the gray of the alocasia leaf. And we're going to sort of thread it through and in between the elderberry so that you have the contrast of the interesting seed clusters of eucalyptus against the smooth red blueberries, or not the red elderberry. You can see how that looks. And this gray coordinating with the alocasia also gives a connection to the blue side of this design, and contrasting shapes and texture of the eucalyptus looks really great against the red berries. So we're kind of flowing in. Oh, this is so beautiful. We're going to work with the beautiful peony. Now the peony sort of falls into the color palette right here in the pinks. So I'm going to flow it over here into the blues. I'm just going to find that spot. So you can see how this goes. Very, very rich coloring. And then I'm going to go and follow that up with beautiful anthurium in that kind of beautiful rust, earthy rust color. I'm gonna find a spot that works for it over in there. Also going to bring in just a piece of plumosa. It's just the stem of it. Just add another layer of vining that's fine, that floats through this design. Now, the Gloriosas, it's been warm here and the Gloriosas are sort of losing its vigor, advancing. We're shooting this over a couple of days, so it's a little difficult to hold its prime, but it does go beautifully with the color. I really need this to go a little bit higher, so I'm going to go ahead and take Equisetum, fill it with water, bring that up so that we can see this rising, because after all, this design is called Rise. We want these Gloriosa to definitely rise. I think, want to see this one also rising. I'm a little short on the Gloriosas, unfortunately, so it's not as profuse as I would like. Okay, I'm going to take the Plumosa and bring it somewhat forward. I'm also going to follow up with the rest of my red berries so that you see that lush red. To the front and back. I'm going to use some pieces of beautiful maidenhair fern to give that light greenery that looks so lush and beautiful, so that you get that beautiful combination of colors that soars. Polychromatic is actually quite an amazing color harmony. It was something that I was not used to creating because more colors, more confusion. But sometimes I think you really have an opportunity to express more of a story for using as much colors. And so I'm really, really happy to have sort of bore through this experiment to challenge myself to go with so many colors. So as you can see, the flower color balances the surround colors as well as contrasting textures that play off of each other. It's all about balancing the different color, like this sort of burgundy pulled in from the other side, and then the blues with the alocasia, the grays pulled over and balances this side. It's all about bringing unity. And the feeling of rise is felt because it's such an uplifting design that sort of bursts out of that cone of sort of the cinder cone that's been created with the beautiful tapestry sticks. It was a lot of fun creating this. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this too. To read this month's full article, please visit hitomigilliam.com/creativeedge. You'll be able to see the finished designs and read the accompanying article for more insight and for the list of plant materials and supplies used to create each of the 3 pieces. Also, make sure to watch my quick tutorial on how I make the color tapestry sticks used in all 3 of this month's designs. You can find it linked into the description below. Back again in July is a limited number of signed 8x10 prints from this month's article. Printed on the high-quality 320 GSM photo paper, each print will be hand-numbered and signed. And please consider supporting my channel by liking this video and subscribing for future content.